Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has told Parliament that he'd decide to withdraw the exemption granted to Eskom from disclosing irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure in its annual financial statements.
This comes after public criticism of Godongwana's decision. The Finance Minister briefed various parliamentary committees on the controversial decision and his subsequent withdrawal, at least for now.
SABC News economics editor Tshepo Mongoai spoke to the Finance Minister earlier.
You will recall that we did a similar thing for Transnet last year. We had an intensive consultation, including with the AG, and concluded the agreement, and we granted Transnet a similar dispensation. Eskom applied to us for a similar dispensation, and we granted Eskom that dispensation on the understanding that two things we wanted to achieve. The first one was to ensure that the Eskom finances are not qualified for unnecessary, what is called irregular expenditures, which have not led to a loss to the state. And we then said those irregular expenditures and criminal conduct which are not led to a loss to the state must be disclosed in the annual report of the department, which is also subject to audit and report to Parliament. We thought we've achieved two objectives then. The first one being the sorting out the finances of Eskom, the second one being the accountability, transparency framework. But two things have happened. First one was that the AG was of the view that, unlike the Transnet situation, there's not been a proper and intensive consultation with them, which we take into account. And therefore, we need to have that proper consultation with the AG, the auditors of Eskom. And we've also taken criticism, which is coming out in the public, and that criticism centers around the accountability, transparency, and checks and balances against corrupt activities. A position which was sympathetic to. We also don't want to hide any thing or facilitate any corrupt conduct. In that sense, we have therefore withdrawn the Gazette and are taking that consultation route. Tomorrow we'll be publishing a withdrawal Gazette, and that Gazette will also call for comments by the 21st of April, because what we want to do is that by the time Eskom finalizes submit its annual financial statement by the end of May, we must have concluded this process and develop as much consensus as possible. Yeah.
The process is ongoing. Would you say it was premature to release the Gazette given this withdrawal that we're seeing today?
With the benefit of hindsight, I think the consultation process was not sufficient. And therefore, I think we acknowledge that criticism. And I said in the committees today, which were not impervious to criticism, particularly constructive criticism. We've got to take that into account. So we have got to go through that consultation process and come back.
How long will this process take of consultation?
The Gazette we're issuing tomorrow is until the 21st of April. Thereafter, we'll apply amounts to all the comments that will be coming through and formulate a position.
We're also hearing that the state of disaster has been terminated. And I'm asking this because, in part, the objective was to deal with the very same issue of electricity crisis. From where you're sitting, Minister, would you say this, in a way, for now, it's a blow in terms of government's measures to deal with the electricity crisis?
No. Government measures to deal with electricity continue. You will recall that from our side, we have made a provision in the budget to bail out Eskom to the tune of 254 billion rand over the next 3 years. And that stands. So it's not in any way being affected by all of these decisions. The decision we're taking in relation to the exemption is a caution to mitigate a potential risk if Eskom's finances are qualified.
Just a final one from me, Minister. Let's just remind the people why, especially when it comes to PFMA. Often when you speak to people who run state-owned enterprises, they lament some of the provisions of PFMA. I know certainly here at the SABC, when we acquire certain things, the process can be quite lengthy, mainly because of some of the requirements of PFMA. Just reminds us in terms of what are the challenges that some of the steps that you're taking are trying to address.
Let me just give you an example. All the state-owned enterprises have highly regulated in terms of financial reporting. They are reporting in terms of the international financial reporting standards. They are also reporting in terms of the JSE listing regulations. They've got an additional burden, which no private sector company does, of reporting of what is called wasteful and irregular expenditure, which by its nature is very fluid. Therefore, we are in the process of doing a PFMA review, which will make these companies to be agile like all private sector companies. I've just had a call now from the CEO of the DPSA. They said, Minister, why do you withdraw? We all want a new regulatory framework. If you ask, I've got a submission by DPSA, I've got a submission by PIC, I've got a submission by IDC. All of them have got similar complaints that the environment is designed for public service, not for state enterprises. That's a challenge we're trying to grapple with.
So the review, will it take a form of amendment of the Act itself?
Yes, we're doing a review of the PFMA. The PFMA was drafted in a particular period to address specific conditions at the time. Conditions have changed substantially. It needs a particular review.